Kia ora koutou. Welcome to the fourth webinar in Creative New Zealand's Optimise Online Marketing webinar series. Today's topic is effective use of Facebook advertising. My name is Helen Bartle and I'm the Senior Advisor, Audience Development and Capability Building, and I'm pleased to welcome you all to this session. This morning's webinar will be presented by Ray Bassett, Digital Marketing Director at ACMN Marketing and Advertising in Sydney. Some of you may recall the webinar that Ray presented last year on getting the most out of YouTube, which was packed full of practical tips and is also available via Creative New Zealand's website to view. We're incredibly fortunate to be able to tap into her level of specialist expertise and knowledge, so thank you, Ray, for taking the time to present today. We will break midway through the webinar and at the end, so you can ask Ray any questions you might have. We'd also like to remind you to make sure you're on mute by pressing *6. You can use the Q&A box or the chat box to ask any questions, and we'll also post the PowerPoint slides and the webinar recording on Creative New Zealand's website after the session. So now to today's topic. Advertising on Facebook is one of the most targeted, segmented, cost-effective and measurable forms of advertising you can use as an arts organisation. Most of you will probably have trialled Facebook advertising and many of you will be advertising regularly. But how do we do this most effectively? I'd like to now hand over to Ray, who will take us through her presentation. Over to you, Ray. So if you're on mute, Ray, you just need to press *6 and see if that works. Otherwise, we might have to just delay the webinar while we work out the audio. No, that's not going to work either. Okay, so I'll just go on to *6 and we'll see if we can work this out. And if we don't have any joy in the next 5 or 6 minutes, we'll probably just postpone today's session. So apologies for the technical glitch.
I think I'm back. Apologies, Helen. Let's go.
Fantastic.
I was using #6, not star.
Okay.
My apologies.
No problem. Okay, over to you.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's get started. So today I thought we'd cover a little bit about advertising strategy and where Facebook fits in with your media plan. A little bit about how you prepare for your Facebook advertising, some tools and tracking. The target audiences that are available. We'll cover a little bit about ad formats and then measuring results. So first of all, advertising strategy. So let's start with the really fundamental question, why would you do Facebook advertising? The really fundamental first place to start is engage people where they are already engaged. People are spending massive amounts of time on Facebook, as you would know. Where do you usually use Facebook? Some of these things are quite surprising. 15% of people are using Facebook while they're shopping. They're using Facebook while they're watching TV, on holidays, at work. In bed, 59%. I must admit to having checked Facebook while I'm lying in bed first thing in the morning too. So people are on Facebook at all hours of the day, and it's a fantastic place to reach people who are engaged with your product. One of the other major benefits to Facebook advertising is its ability to reach your target audience. Traditional online advertising includes an enormous amount of waste. That is, let's say your total impressions might be all people in Auckland. Your unique reach might be a percentage of those people, and then your actual target audience is an even smaller percentage of the overall people who saw your ad. The other great benefit about Facebook advertising is about how it can work as a second screen strategy. So what I'm talking about here is the other activity that people are doing while they're watching TV. So I don't know what TV time looks like in your household, but certainly in mine it's not the same as it used to be. When the TV is on, I've always got my mobile phone, my tablet, my partner might have his laptop. One thing that we're finding tremendously useful is actually thinking about how you might target that second screen through your advertising strategy. Dual screen media consumption is at an all-time high. These figures from Australia recently show that 74% are actually surfing the internet while they watch TV. I've had a look last night at some figures for New Zealand. They're a little bit, say, a year or more old, the figures I found, but that was even 66% for New Zealand. So people are definitely engaging on Facebook in particular when they watch TV. So Facebook's at the top of those alternate activities on the second device, followed by Twitter, YouTube and email. What we do here at ACMN is we really think about how we can plan that dual screen media strategy. So when you're thinking about a Facebook campaign, we don't think about our Facebook advertising in isolation. We think about how it can work with our TV or other media activity. Some of the ways you can do that here are by meshing, stacking or shifting. So excuse that little bit of jargon, but I think once you understand what they are, it's really quite simple. So for example, let's say next week, for example, we have one of the Wicked singers presenting the Defying Gravity song on the Sunrise, which is our breakfast program here on TV. So that's just a publicity moment, but it's a great opportunity for us to mesh, stack or shift their activity. So at the same time as we have that segment on Sunrise, we'll have Facebook advertising, which let's say is a previous recording of Gemma singing Defying Gravity. We might have, at the same time to stack, we might have a behind the scenes clip about the making of Wicked. And then perhaps if we were using the shifting strategy, we would post something which is perhaps Glinda, so the other major character of Wicked, sharing her song or her part of the story, which is in counterpoint to Gemma's. So these are really effective ways to layer your Facebook advertising on other activity. So you can do that around publicity on TV. You can do that when you might have an ad actually placed on television. I'd also recommend doing it around major publicity. So if you have a feature article, press publicity, if you have a feature article in the newspaper on the weekend, then think about how your Facebook advertising can reinforce or extend that activity in your media plan. So why Facebook? The really fundamental thing is because it works. It sells tickets and products, it drives attendance, builds brands, it totally outperforms traditional display advertising and enables earned media. That's through its social features. So for us, some of the results that we've seen lately are really astounding, and I can really attribute them to some of the refined targeting tools that Facebook now offers. In the very early days, going back a couple of years, Facebook advertising results were not too dissimilar to display advertising, so we might see a conversion rate of, say, 1 or 2%. What we're finding now with the refined targeting tools is, in some very recent examples for us, Facebook advertising has outperformed an EDM for pure ticket sales. We've seen Facebook advertising for the White Night Festival be so successful in boosting interest and attendance at that event that we actually had to pause the advertising. We've seen results, click-through results of up to 15%, which are just incredible compared to what you might achieve from display, and even in some ways surpass search, which I would have said would have been the most effective in the past. There are so many fantastic examples online about the results that people have achieved. Here are just some that I got from the Facebook Studio. This one's for a website called Artfinder. They found a 100% increase in sales from their Facebook activity. They got 5 times the Facebook traffic to their website and a 75% increase in Artfinder subscribers. Another example, Cirque du Soleil on the Facebook Studio have used Facebook advertising really for ticket sales. They've increased sales through social channels 271% and increased sales through social channels month over month by 250%. We have seen definitely similar results. If you're after some case studies to take to your board to prove the success, then I recommend you go to this link here that I've provided. There are so many case studies there from all sorts of different businesses, small businesses, large ones all around the world. I know you're all going to be wondering, what about declining reach though? Now, I'm not sure if you're all aware that Facebook has been adjusting their newsfeed algorithms over the last 6 months in particular, and that has resulted for most pages, or probably all pages, in a huge decline in organic reach. So that organic reach is the percentage of your fans or followers who see each post. For most organisations, they noticed a dramatic change late last year in around November, December. We've definitely noticed that same decline with our own clients. For some people, the decline in organic reach has bottomed out at even 2% is what organisations are talking about. I think, though, for most arts organisations, we have smaller fan bases who are more engaged with our content, so your organic reach is likely to be somewhere in the range of 5 to 10%. I do think that this change on Facebook's side does require a different strategy for Facebook going forward. I'd recommend you do now invest a percentage of your budget in post-promotion, and we'll talk about how to do that a little bit later. That doesn't need to be a large percentage, but I do think you need to plan to actually push your important content and messages to that fan base. I'd recommend perhaps posting less often so you can make better content. Focus on higher quality, more engaging content, and don't feel pressured to post every single day. There are things you can do to improve your post rank, so I'd suggest you go out there and read about different post formats, be creative about what you're actually posting, think about how it might be socialised, because that will ultimately improve your organic reach. And then, unfortunately, the other thing is earn likes, don't pay for them. I think some of our clients are probably in a similar position to you, where we have definitely paid for likes in the past and built that fan following. Now, I don't think that activity has been worthless. I think you've still got a ready and engaged audience there, and as we move forward, I'll talk about how you can use that audience also for targeting your messages. But I think it is definitely a watch this space. You know, I think it's important actually, this webinar today, because it's a time really where you need to change your thinking about Facebook. Think of it more as an ad platform and perhaps less as a social platform where you're just pushing out content and not paying for that promotion. So some preparation tools and tracking. I'm borrowing from Vicky's last presentation here, but social media goals. Goals are really the place that you need to start. And in fact, with Facebook advertising, they've now re-engineered the whole placement of ads process to force you to think about what your goals are up front. Facebook advertising can do all these things that I've listed here on this page. It can definitely help to reduce your marketing costs. It can reach potential new audiences. You can use Facebook advertising to grow your email database, distribute content, drive traffic to your website, increase mobile app installs. It's really very versatile. Here are just some examples of some of the ad formats you might use depending on what your objective are. These are just some of my thoughts, I guess, on what I think the best formats are for each of these purposes. So if you're aiming to be quite direct about selling tickets or product, consider using the website conversions ad. You could use a page post engagement. You would have to make sure that a link is very prominent in that page post engagement and your call to action is very strong. You can also use the offer ad format, although I will say I have heard a rumour that that may be on the way out. For increasing attendance at, let's say, a free event, I'd recommend using the clicks to website ad format. You could also use an event response. We did that very successfully for the White Night event in Melbourne, where we were promoting an event we created on Facebook to allow people to RSVP and invite their friends. If you want to grow likes, really the best and only way to do that is to use the page likes ad format. At the moment, like I just said, I perhaps wouldn't recommend doing that a great deal or spending much money on that. You can build your email database. We've used this quite regularly for clients. Facebook is a great way to do that, but you need to land them somewhere else to, say, enter a competition. So we would use website conversion format to do that. You can increase brand awareness. I really think that page post engagement is absolutely the best way to do that, and particularly a photo post or a video post. You can encourage engagement and sharing with that page post engagement, of course, through encouraging people to like and share. And then you can increase mobile app installs if you have a mobile app. It's a great tool. It's really important before you start Facebook advertising for many of those methods that relate back to a website that you think about how you set up your campaign. Facebook has a great tool in it provides a tracking pixel so that you can actually track conversions, registrations and checkouts that continue through to your website. This is really the place to start. So don't dive into Facebook advertising until you've thought about setting up your tracking. It's a small piece of code that Facebook provides that you then place on those key pages. I've got a link there which you can follow. So what can you track? Here are some examples. You can track key page views. So we might put a tracking pixel on every page of a site, or we might put a tracking pixel, let's say for White Night, we put a tracking pixel just on the Visiting Melbourne page because it was about targeting people who were coming from interstate or overseas. You can put a tracking pixel on a registration completion page. So, for example, you might want to use that to track people who visit your website and then actually sign up for your newsletter, and then you'd put it on the page that they see once they've successfully signed up. You can use the tracking pixels to track a checkout, which is a fantastic way to see a final purchase. You can also ask a third party to do that for you. So let's say if you're sending your purchase transactions off to someone else, ask them if they'll place that tracking pixel on the purchase confirmation page. Tracking pixels are very small, tiny amounts of code that don't slow down a website at all. I think many of certainly in the area that I work in, mostly in event ticketing, some of the providers are willing to place tracking pixels, and some of the other major players at the moment are working on systems that will allow them to do that. So I think the more of us that are out there requesting this, the better, and they'll get it working really soon. It's really important to verify your tracking is working after an hour or the next day. You do that just by logging into the conversion area of your Facebook Ads Manager, and you'll see there that it'll get a green light to show that it's verified. Okay, do we have any questions so far?
Thanks, Ray. Just to let you all know that Vicky Allpress-Hill from the Audience Connection is also on the line. And if anyone does have a question, you can unmute yourself, as you probably know, by pressing *6. So feel free to do that. Otherwise, I've just got a question regarding the tracking code and the providers with regards to the ticketing agencies you work with. Can you give us an update specifically on who is actually allowing you to include this tracking code? So do you work with some of the big ones like Ticketmaster or Ticketek, for instance?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ticketek at the moment will include tracking pixels.
Right.
Ticketmaster are very close to offering a solution. They have been working on it for some time, so I'd imagine it would be available this year.
Okay, so that's good to know, especially if there's any resistance here in New Zealand to say actually it's happening in
yeah, please
across
do.
the ditch.
If you encounter anything, email me, and I'll help. And together, we will definitely pressure to get that happening, because it's just so vital for seeing your success. In the meantime, you know, you can use other methods. With Ticketmaster, I'd recommend using came from codes as a way to track success right through to sale. But they're not perfect, and a tracking pixel will give you a much better view.
Thank you. I have a question here from Susan Nelson from the New Zealand Trio. She would like to know, could we hear a bit more explanation about improving your post rank?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, really today I'm going to focus more on the advertising side of posts, and you can definitely use advertising as a way to improve your post rank. But some quick other tips I would think about when you're posting about how you can encourage likes, comments and shares. So really they're the fundamental ways that Facebook ranks your post and decides whether people will see it on the news feed. So, for example, obviously you can run, let's say, a competition where people have to comment on the post in order to win. Now that will reach a lot of people because it'll have a lot of comments, so Facebook will see it as a very engaging post. You could run a competition based on sharing, so that they have to share a post in order to enter, and that also will get a lot of organic reach on Facebook. Other ideas, for example, we recently did a post on the Wicked page where we asked fans to contribute questions for an interview we're doing with one of the principal cast members. That ranked really well because people, again, were commenting on it. So the more likes, comments and shares you can get, the better. And actively think about posts that will encourage that. The other thing really is time of day. Do think about the time of day that you're posting. Just because you're at work and you're thinking about Facebook doesn't mean that people, your public or your audience, are actually online at that time. So use the time scheduling features and test different times of day. We've actually, at times for some of our clients, posted at 6 in the morning. To get people as they're in bed checking Facebook. That can work incredibly well for some clients. We've noticed on one particular event that really everyone was online from 7 to 9 at night, so we'd put most of our posts up at that time of night. I have heard recently some people posting quite late at night, then finding that they get enough organic reach for the next morning. So you might post at, let's say, 10 o'clock at night when there's less competition in someone's feed, less new fresh content, and that can also help then to get some organic reach early in the morning. So they're just a few ideas.
Thanks, Ray. That's really helpful. Does anyone else have a question at this stage before we push on?
I just have a comment that I smiled when Ray said back in the early days a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's like 3 years ago.
Way back in the distance.
Way back.
Yeah.
It's changed so much. Actually, that's one thing I would say, Vicky, that and for everybody, you know, I'm not delving too much today into a tutorial about how to use the tools because Facebook just changed them so often. I mean, it would make my presentation irrelevant in probably about a month. And even the ad formats, they really do change them so often. You just need to be nimble and go with whatever they're currently offering.
Yes.
So have you noticed that the average spend that you're actually allocating to a Facebook campaign is increasing all the time, or is it fairly consistent?
We are overall spending more and more of our marketing dollars on Facebook, absolutely more and more. And that's really because of the new targeting methods. So we've probably more than doubled budgets, but I will say that the actual cost per click or action is coming down for us at the moment. So we're getting actually better value out of the campaign.
That's good.
Which is
Excellent.
really great news, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just going to say too that, you know, where that additional budget is coming from, we will often now take a portion of TV budget, for example. So where that would have gone to TV, now we're thinking about that dual screen activity in our media plan and taking a portion of that TV budget and spending it on Facebook.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Ray. So I think we're probably, unless if anyone does have a question, obviously feel free to put it into the chat or Q&A box. But I think we'll crack on with part 2.
Great, thank you. Okay, so part 2. Oh, this is the area where I just get so excited, and that's target audiences. So finding your audience on Facebook is now just incredibly easy. The targeting tools are so refined. I really am loving this about Facebook at the moment, and I really recommend that you make the most of this targeting that they have available. So to explain a little bit about different types of ad targeting, on the very outer rim of that target there you can see what I call prospecting. So prospecting in digital advertising is what I would call the traditional impression buys. So that's buying premium impressions, let's say on stuff.co.nz or the New Zealand Herald, and just reaching, say, the homepage for a week. So that's reaching a very broad audience, and a small proportion of them will be the people who you actually want to reach who are interested in your product. A step in from that is contextual targeting. Contextual targeting is about placing your ads next to related content. It does tend to be more targeted. So, for example, that might be, say, putting your ads on the entertainment pages of the New Zealand Herald online. That might be even more specific, putting your ads next to reviews of similar products, yet next to articles about that particular product. That starts to deliver better marketing value as you move further into the target. Then you'd have segment targeting, so that's about using demographics to target your ads. So many of the major premium advertisers will now also allow you to segment your targeting. So let's say you're putting an ad on New Zealand Herald homepage, but you only want to reach women who are 40 plus, then they might allow you to do that kind of segment targeting. That starts to deliver better value, but is not as good as the next step in, which is lookalike modelling. So lookalike modelling uses external data to match your right customers at scale. So it finds you people who look like your customers, but larger numbers of them. And then at the very centre of that target, I would put retargeting. So that's your exact customers, getting them back to purchase, telling them about new products or new promotions. That is absolutely the most effective, but lookalike targeting, given the scale that it can reach, is very valuable. It removes waste, improves accuracy, and this is where we're really seeing such tremendous value from Facebook advertising. because they allow you now to do lookalike targeting. So some examples of how we might use lookalike targeting in our Facebook strategy in combination with other targeting methods on Facebook. So lookalike targeting, you might say, well, actually segment targeting, women aged 40 plus in Melbourne who have a birthday within 1 week. That's actually a real example of a campaign we have run for Greece through an Australian tour specifically for a birthday promotion, but it was really about learning about patron age because they had to enter their date of birth and age, and also collecting email addresses. So a very simple little promotion that really was designed to use the tools available, the targeting tools available on Facebook. You might use your Facebook advertising to target men 50 plus on your database. So yes, you can do that even if you don't know what age they are. Facebook do quite often. So for example, you can load the email addresses for people on your database and then use the targeting tools to then refine that further to men who are 50 plus. You could target more broadly university students who like classical music. You could target people on your database who didn't open this week's email newsletter. We've definitely done that before if we had an important message pre-sale promotion in that newsletter. What I've found interestingly when I'm running a Facebook campaign in tandem with an email campaign is that the Facebook ad click-through rates might not be incredibly high, but what they do is it actually boost the open rates for the email. So I think it works really well as a reminder for people. Let's say we've sent out a special offer, tickets for King and I are $100 for 100 hours. Then we might have a Facebook ad to people who've opened that email promoting the countdown really, so really telling them, reminding them about when that offer closes and ends. We could also say we know from our database who hasn't opened that email, so they might not have read their email this week. Let's not miss that opportunity to reach them. Let's load that segment into Facebook and target the people who haven't opened the email to see if we can get them to act on the offer that we've got in that email. So using your customer data to drive Facebook, to create, Facebook target audiences is incredibly valuable. Let's talk about that a little bit more. So the process for custom audiences. So in Facebook, they're called custom audiences. Begin by loading a list of people on your database. So load a spreadsheet, which includes their email address. Facebook then matches those email addresses against known accounts on Facebook, and then will allow you to target those people on your database through Facebook advertising. I really think this is not used anywhere near enough at the moment. Many, many large organisations really should be doing it more. One of the great things about it, as opposed to email, is in this case you're only paying if someone clicks or acts on that ad, as opposed to email marketing where you're paying for every person who you send it to, even if they don't respond. So I really think Facebook offers much better value compared to email marketing. You can also target people who are similar to those on your database. Now, this is the lookalike targeting that I mentioned earlier, and this is where we are finding we're getting the most value out of Facebook advertising at the moment. So once you have loaded that list of people who are on your database, Facebook will let you make a lookalike audience. There are degrees of lookalike audience. The first one is people who are similar to those on your database, and then further out from that is a reach audience, what they call a reach audience. People who are similar or more closely matched in their demographics, their likes and interests. The reach audiences are more broadly matched, so looser criteria, I guess, for providing that matched audience. Even with a database as small as just a few hundred people, you can come up with a quite sizable similar audience and reach audience for targeting on Facebook. I would, however, say that you are much better off if you can have a larger database. It will improve the accuracy. If you're building your database, you can load it today, set up a similar and reach lookalike, and then a few months or 6 months down the track, when you've grown that database a bit more, run it again and refresh those numbers and interest profiles. So the other tool that you can do now is people who are similar to those who visit your website. So through those tracking pixels that we were talking about before, Facebook can now identify people who are similar to those who have viewed those tracking pixels. So if the tracking pixel has been placed on your website, you can create an audience of people who are similar to your website visitors. If the tracking pixel has been placed on a purchase confirmation page, you can make an audience of people who are similar to those who've actually completed a purchase. If they're similar to people who viewed a specific page, for example, if there's one kind of content that you want to find more audience for, then that's a great way to do that. These audience targeting tools for Facebook are now just so refined and so successful. I really recommend you try them. It's very easy. When you log into Ads Manager, that's a little preview there where you can see the campaigns, pages, reports, settings, etc. Actually, while we're talking about that, you'll see there conversion tracking. That's where you'll go to create your tracking pixels that I talked about earlier. And then right down the bottom there is audiences. When you click on that, you'll be given the option to set up new audiences. So you go there to set up your database targeting, first of all, and you'd go there then also to create your lookalike audiences. You can see some of the options that they'll give you. So you can load a data file that matches email addresses or phone numbers or Facebook user IDs, but I don't think any of you would be likely to be using that, app user IDs and IDFAs. If you're using MailChimp, fantastically, Facebook will allow you to sync MailChimp to match your email list to people on Facebook, so that's a wonderful feature if you are. You can create audiences, as you can see, they're based on your website, so create a list of people who have taken a specific action on your website, and you can also create audiences based on your mobile app users. Together with your custom targeting and custom audiences that you're setting up in Facebook, you've got the full range and suite of other targeting available that Facebook provides. So you can then, let's say you might have, in creating a custom audience, a lookalike reach audience for musicals in Australia, for example. I might have a total audience of, let's say, 600,000 people. I can then say, okay, now I've got 600, let's refine it down to people who are just in Melbourne, then let's refine it down to women who are 40 plus, and then let's say people who are parents if we want to provide a family ticket offer for a musical in Melbourne. So it's really amazing how refined you can get with this targeting, and the finer you can go, the better your results will be. There is, I guess, a point where your target audience is going to be too small, and there's a point where your target audience will be too large. I would say, okay, 600,000 people, that's too big. On the other end of the scale, 1,000 people, perhaps even 2,000 people is probably too small. So somewhere in, maybe the 5,000 people to 100,000 people, somewhere in that range, depending on your product, is a good place to be. The way we approach those different targeting methods is that we would always start with targeting our database first, so our custom audience based on whatever our targeting goals are. second, we would go to our similar audience next. Now, we've found fantastic results with similar lookalike audiences. We would start there because they're more closely matched. The results are definitely going to be better. Particularly if your budget is tight with reaching new audiences, then spend your money there. The reach audiences we find are useful in the later stages of a campaign, or let's say when a musical opens and we're going out with a big bang and we want to reach a wider audience, that's when we might do that. But when we have a specific targeted special offer, we'd focus on a similar audience or our custom database audience. So, ad formats. This is a quick overview of some of the ad formats available. Page post engagement is actually taking the content that you have posted on your page and promoting that to your target audiences that you choose. Page likes is really an ad format that's directly designed around increasing your page likes. Clicks to website drives traffic to a website, whatever it may be. Website conversion ad format is very similar to the clicks to website format, but you can only use that if you've done that first step in preparation of setting up tracking pixels. App installations, if you have a mobile app, is a fantastic ad format for actually promoting app installs, and Facebook can actually target based on the device that they're using, whether it's iPhone, Android, etc. App engagement is more about desktop app engagement, something you're probably not likely to be doing. Event responses, like I said, is if you create a Facebook event, you can use the event responses to encourage people to RSVP and to invite friends. We used that very successful for White Night in Melbourne this year. And then finally, offer claims. Offer claims work better or best really as an in-store offer or promotion. If you're selling something online through an offer, then I would suggest you use more of the features at the top there, page post engagement perhaps, or maybe website conversions. There are so many different ad formats when you start to come across Newsfeed, Newsfeed Mobile, right-hand side, all the different options that are available. There's a great cheat sheet that Facebook provide. I've given you a link there. If you want to know how many characters, what size the image should be, then that's really the place to go. They update that quite regularly, so that one is the current set of ad formats and specs since they change them all the time. I'd recommend you check back often. One really important thing to keep in mind when you're preparing your images for a Facebook campaign is the 20% rule. Oh, I hate the 20% rule. It drives me mad, but I do understand why Facebook have it. So in developing images for your Facebook advertising, only 20% of the image can be text. Now, in terms of logos, if your logo is on a product such as that Red Bull example there, where the logo is part of the actual object of the can, then the 20% rule doesn't count to that logo. But if you're overlaying a word logo onto an image, then that will count as part of your 20% rule. They use a grid format to actually work out the 20%. I've given you a link there because they have this great tool where you can actually go load your images and test if they're going to pass. That's going to save you an enormous amount of time. Once you get the hang of it, then you'll know pretty much straight away whether your image is going to meet the 20% rule or not, but it will certainly save you some time in ads that don't get approved. Some creative ad tips from what we've learnt. So keep your important message to the first 90 characters, including spaces, and that will also include a link. So this is if you're doing a paid post promotion. I would suggest you really focus on those first 90 characters, because in some of those ad formats, that's all they will see. You can write more text than that in your post, absolutely. And for some people, they'll click the read more and actually see the full post, but I'd really recommend you optimise for 90. Use a call to action. So Facebook now have these fantastic call to action buttons in the web link ads. On the right-hand side there of that slide, you can see some of the options you have in call to action buttons now. You can include a shop now button, book now, learn more, sign up and download. We're finding these are working incredibly well. They haven't been available long, but I'd certainly recommend you try them. Use image and video posts for paid post promotion. I don't think if you're posting a link, for example, to Facebook and then promoting that post, I don't see that they work very well. Images and videos do work incredibly well. Videos are particularly good for brand and general awareness. Not so good for direct call to action advertising. Images can work well for very direct call to action, provided you include the link in those first 90 characters. Please focus on high quality imagery. I've said avoid blue. We've really found that anything that is similar or close to the Facebook blue really just blends into people's experience. Anything colours that really contrast with the Facebook blue, we find work really well. So this was definitely our experience with White Night, a recent example. They had a colour palette of about 5 or 6 different colours that they ran with that Facebook campaign. We had ads in all those different colours, and it was the orange, very bright orange, and a very bright pink ad that did the best. And anything that was, say, purple, blue, that really blended with Facebook platform definitely didn't do as well. Like I was just saying, test different images and copy. You can use the Power Editor. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar that Facebook offers this more advanced tool for placing ads called the Power Editor. So you can place ads just by going to the Ads Manager on Facebook. That's fine. I would actually recommend for most of you, you start there and you probably spend most of your time there. Power Editor is an additional tool that you can use to do, if you're managing a lot of campaigns, it can be useful. It is really difficult to use, and in fact the Facebook staff here in Sydney all agree that it's a really difficult tool to use. So if you're starting out, I don't recommend you go there. But if you're really getting into it and you want to test some different posts, then Power Editor will actually let you post something that's not published to your page and use that to test different ad messages. With testing different ad performance, there are different views on the best way to do that. Facebook would actually recommend you set up one campaign that has, let's say, the same targeted audiences but slight differences in imagery or headline, different ad formats with different imagery and headline, and Facebook will automatically optimize to the best performing ad. So they're really doing the split testing for you. It's really important that you only changing one thing through that testing plan. So, for example, don't put different ads with different target audiences in the one campaign group, because it will never really be an even playing field. If you've got a different target audience but the same ad, you could put them in one group. So remember, only change one thing. But I will say that in my own experience, I think the Facebook algorithm for the advertising chooses the winner too soon. So if you really want a more robust and rigorous test of different concepts or target audiences, then I'd suggest in Facebook you set them up as actual separate campaigns and track the performance of those ads maybe over 2 to 3 days. You don't need to leave it very long, and then pause the ones that aren't working. The other thing to really keep in mind with Facebook advertising is you need to combat ad fatigue. Click-through rates, response rates definitely drop off quite quickly on Facebook. So we would say for most ads, they maybe have a life of about 5 days, and then we would refresh them. So in 5 days, we would slightly revise the message or refresh it with a new image. So really keep that in mind, that then it's not a set and forget approach to advertising. It really needs a lot of work. So some bidding tips for you when setting up your campaigns. Please use cost per click bidding. Do not use the default optimised CPM. This is just our experience that cost per click bidding is far more cost effective, and it really gives you more control over your budget, how much you're spending for particular actions and those results. For advanced advertisers, yes, you can dive into Facebook Power Editor, and you can use some tools in there to set bids for different actions and outcomes. That could be effective if you know your audience and what you're prepared to pay for different outcomes very well, but I really think for most people you need to stick to cost per click bidding. Don't set your bid too low. You'll get a lot of impressions, but you may not reach high-value customers. So for us, Facebook does make a recommendation on the bids, and they generally get it quite right. So it can vary, let's say, from 20 cents per click. Maybe we'd bid up to 40 cents per click, rarely any more than that. And please, please never use the Boost Post button. The Boost Post button uses very broad, indiscriminate targeting, and it uses the cost per impression algorithm for Facebook. It's not the best value. If you want to do Facebook advertising, if you want to promote your posts, please use the Ads Manager. Quickly on measuring results, you can customize your reporting view in Facebook. I'd really suggest you do that. Edit the columns to actually see the reporting measures that are relevant to you. Some of the important metrics that we include in our dashboards: frequency. You really must monitor frequency for all of your ads regularly. You could, if you left ads running for a period of time or had, say, too small a target audience, too large a budget, then you might be reaching the same people, 10 to 15 times, which is really not a good use of your money. So keep an eye on frequency and keep it a reasonable number. You probably want to reach people more than once. I'm sure most of you are familiar with traditional advertising methods of getting a certain amount of, say, 3+ frequency. Then you want a similar approach on Facebook. We'd also be monitoring reach, page likes. In terms of click-through rate, I find the unique click-through rate much more effective as a measure, so place that one on your dashboard. Obviously, you'd be monitoring your spend, your social clicks, and then you can also monitor things that depend on the goals you've set for your campaign, so the cost per website conversion or the cost per fan. Final questions.
Thanks very much, Ray. We do have a question from Helen at the Auckland Philharmonia Orchestra, which is around privacy, to do with uploading email databases, in terms of what we need to actually cover off when someone perhaps signs up for that initial email list. How do we actually cover the privacy contract, I guess, with the audience member, and making sure that we've given appropriate notice and actually secured consent?
Absolutely, that's a great question, Helen. I really recommend you review your privacy policy that you will have on your website, no doubt, and make sure it gives allowance for this kind of marketing activity. I don't see that as a major amend. It's probably just an amendment to the section which talks about how we use your data. But I do recommend you look at that, definitely.
Vicky, do you have anything to add with regards to privacy?
Oh, me? Yeah. Actually, I was. It may be just simply, I don't know what you think, Ray, but changing, like in the sign-up things for email, rather than saying sign up to our email newsletter, sign up for updates via email and social media, perhaps. I don't know if there's something like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Clever use of the wording.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Vicky. Definitely.
But I did notice that Facebook has custom audience terms that say that you warrant that you have provided appropriate notice to and secured any necessary consent from the data subjects, and also you confirm that it won't go to anyone who has opted out. So yeah, it would be about your sign-up processes and your privacy policy, I would say. Yeah.
So I think, considering those opt-out criteria, when I was talking about loading your lists all the time and keeping them refreshed is even more important. So don't just load a list and 12 months later go back and use that list. There's no limit to the number of audiences, custom audiences you can make, so keep them refreshed. I can see a question there from Michelle. Would like to know if target audience figures are smaller for New Zealand. Yes, they definitely are, but they're still definitely a good sized audience there. So I think, I'm trying to remember, so musical theatre audience is large here, so 600,000 perhaps for a typical audience. I think in New Zealand that might be around 150,000 to 200,000 people. So yeah, definitely smaller, but that shouldn't impact on your results.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have a question or a comment for Ray before we sign off today? I think it's been an incredibly useful and stimulating session that's really raised the bar for us here, Ray, and certainly I think it's given lots of tips on how we can actually use Facebook advertising more effectively. But if anyone does have a question that they'd like to ask Ray now, feel free to unmute yourself by pressing *6, or you can obviously email Cassandra Wilson afterwards with any feedback you might have, or you can email myself and I'll pass the question on to Ray. So does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Ray. As ever, it's been fantastic and we really appreciate your contribution. Here are Ray's contact details for anyone who'd like to get in touch with her. And just to let you all know that the next Optimise webinar session will be on the 28th of May, and it's on email marketing that converts to revenue. Please feel free to pass this on to anyone who might find the session relevant, and we look forward to seeing you all then. Until that point, I hope you have a lovely Anzac long weekend ahead, and we'll be in touch. Thanks a lot, Ray.
Thank you, Helen.
Bye.
Bye.